I'm Raghav. I am a co-founder with Rebel Foods. We are the largest internet restaurant company in the world, with about 350 kitchens in India and totaling to about 400 plus spread across Middle East and the UK outside of India. Some of the brands that we've launched over the years, which have become category leaders, include Behroo's Biryani, which is a biryani brand, the number one biryani brand we believe in India. Oven Story Pizza, which is one of the largest pizza brands now. In fact, we have a stall set up here for franchisee opportunities of Oven Story. Then we have Fasus, which is a brand of rolls, which is how Rebel Foods actually started. And over the years, we've now spread ourselves across 70 plus cities in India. And we've also made investments in a few companies. In fact, that is the topic of discussion today, that when we make an investment in a company in the food space, what do we look at? And this is from the perspective of those of you who have probably restaurants of your own or plan to start a restaurant of your own over time and are looking to get investment and funding to expand. Then how should you think about doing that? What are the various options that you have as far as expansion is concerned? And how do you go about selecting which option to proceed on? Very quickly checking, does anybody here have their own restaurants? Okay, a few hands are raised, and I'm sure the industry is interesting. Everybody believes that there is a lot of potential for restaurants in India. So everybody, a lot of people want to get into it. So I will quickly cover some of those things. In fact, this is a presentation that I also covered a couple of months back at the Restaurants India West India Edition event in Mumbai. And the response I got was that I should also do this again here with new audience. So I'll quickly move on and cover on how should a restaurant think about expanding. So let's say if you're running a successful restaurant and you're looking to expand, then how should you think about expansion? What are the various options in front of you? The first is obviously expansion through internal accruals. What does that mean? That means you are making profit, and with the profit you plan to start another restaurant, right? So that is internal accruals. But that is a slow process, isn't it? Because let's say if you're doing 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs monthly sale and doing about 10% profit, the margin in our industry is a little thin. It will take you time to get 1 to 2 crores, which might be required to set up your next restaurant in. So what is the other option? The other option is raising money through debt, which is if you're profitable, you can approach banks and the banks will give you debt for you to expand. And that's absolutely fine, because then you don't have to dilute equity. You remain 100% in control of your business. You do have interest payments coming out every month as EMIs. But if you are confident of the business, then that's an absolutely great way to expand. A third is obviously equity investment, which means you go to a banker, you say that I want to raise money. Equity investment can be through the IPO route, but before IPO you can get money through angel investments, through venture capitalist funding. We ourselves at Rebel Foods have got equity investments over the years from a number of marquee investors globally, including Sequoia Capital, which is now Peak 15 in India, Lightbox, and some of the other global names. So this is the route that we've used for expansion, and this is absolutely something that you can do if you can demonstrate that your restaurant idea is a scalable idea which can actually grow the investors' money many times over. And which is the fourth option if all these three options are not available? Any guesses for you to expand? Franchising, yeah, absolutely. So franchising is obviously the fourth option. If you don't have money to expand, but you believe that your brand is so good that anybody else can also run it, then you go for franchising. And in fact, you can run it yourself. So it could be franchisee owned, company operated, or it could be franchisee owned and franchisee operated, if you believe that your setup is something that somebody else can also run. So these are broadly the four different ways in which you can expand your food business. The next thing that I'll cover is that what does Rebel Foods, we as investors look for in a brand when we are looking to expand. And we have invested in 4 companies so far. One of them is an NCR based company called Biryani Blues. You must have probably heard of Biryani Blues and tried their biryanis. And we have Smoor Chocolates. Uh, I'm sorry, which is a Bangalore-based chocolates company, and apart from that, a couple of others. So we've over time invested in some of these companies, and there is a certain way in which we look at our investment thesis, which is deciding how to invest in a company. So I will cover those points next. That what does Rebel look for in a potential investment, so that this can also resonate thoughts in your mind on how to make your business more investable, how to make your business ready for money coming in from other investors, whether they are franchisee investors or they are bankers or they are equity investors. Right. So the first thing that we look for is the category. You can also call it the mission, you can also call it the cuisine. What is the potential of the category? Which is the biggest category, do you think, which is there in India right now? The biggest cuisine with the highest sales. What will Swiggy or Zomato tell you that most people, or the maximum number of people order from this cuisine? Any guesses? Biryani is definitely one of them, but biryani is actually number 4 or number 5 on the list. The number 1 is North Indian, which is your typical paneer tikka, chicken tikka, naan, roti, and that. So North Indian is about 15% of the market, and biryani, pizza, these are still at only 6 to 7% each. North Indian is the largest, South Indian is the second biggest, Chinese is the third. So many people are often surprised to know that Chinese cuisine is actually bigger than pizza in India. Just that Chinese is very unorganized. There are very very few brands that sell across across India in the Chinese cuisine. So these are the first thing that we look for in a brand, is that which category do they operate in. Are they a North Indian focused brand or a South Indian focused brand? And it's important for us that this is at least a 4 to 6% of the total market in terms of size. Otherwise, if it's, let's say, Japanese or Korean cuisine, it might have a lot of growth potential. But right now, if I have to ask how many pin codes in India is Japanese or Korean cuisine going to be, the answer will be probably 50 pin codes. But North Indian, South Indian, they can go into thousands of pin codes, right? So the first thing that we look for is which category is the brand operating in. The next is SKSG or SSSG. Anybody knows what these terms are? SSSG stands for same store sales growth, which means your store, after maturing, in how every year, how much is it growing? The industry grows at 10 to 12%, right? So your store should ideally grow faster than that. It should grow at least 15 to 20%, if not more. Otherwise, it will have the risk of stagnating over time. And then once stagnation is there, people have lot many more options to choose from when it comes to food. So this is a very important metric that even listed companies like Jubilant Foodworks, Hardcastle Restaurant, which represents McDonald's, all of them report that what is the SSSG or SKSG. SSSG is same store sales growth. SKSG is same kitchen sales growth if you are in the cloud kitchen business. So we look for our brands, Behrouz Biryani, how much is its same kitchen sales growth year on year. And this has to be seen at a cohort level, which means you can't say that if the store is only 1 year old, then it is only growing at 10% per year. If a store is 1 year old, it should actually be growing at least 30 to 40%. Stores which are 5 to 6 years old, they can still grow at 10 to 12% or 15%. That is still okay. But before that, in the initial years, the cohorts of the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year should be good as compared to 4 year, 5 year, 6 years. So for us, when we look for an investment, we look at that for this brand, their stores which are more than 1 year old, how are they growing? And if the answer is more than 15 to 20%, then we are interested. The third thing to look for is the unit economics. And the unit economics are the profitability at a per order level. And obviously dine-in and delivery are different, right? In delivery, there is a commission which has to be paid to aggregators more often than not. If you're doing your delivery yourself, then there is again a delivery cost of 60 rupees to 70 rupees per order which will be there, right? So think about it. If your average order value is only 300 rupees, if you are in, let's say, the meal segment, somebody's ordering in a basic homely meal costing 250 to 300 rupees, but you are shelling out 70 rupees for delivery, then it's almost a 20-25% delivery cost, and it's not sustainable in delivery. Therefore, in delivery, we've seen that average order values are upwards of 500 rupees at a sustainable level. Therefore, when we look for an investment, we look at what is the average delivery unit economics for that particular brand. And if it's less than 500, then there has to be either a very good gross margin upwards of 75-80%, or something else which could be very, very low fixed costs in operating, and they can do with the same staff, let's say with 3-4 staff, they can do 200-300 orders a day. So these are all the things that get covered in unit economics, which we definitely look at. The fourth is the model scalability, which means that if you've put it up in 10 locations, is the brand possible to be put in 200 locations? What will it take? Will it require a central kitchen? Will it require back-ending? Will it require a lot of training of people for every single restaurant? All of these things get covered in the model scalability. And we have often seen brands which are very, very good at 2 outlets or 3 outlets level, but the moment they try to go in 10, 15, 20 locations, everything starts breaking apart, quality starts going away, and it's not a problem of intent. The intent is to give a great product. The problem is the model has not been solved for scalability from a skill perspective, from a back-ending perspective. So that is something which is very important to see. The fifth thing that we look at is payback, which means the amount of capex which has gone into the restaurant or the kitchen, in how much time is that getting covered? You might be making 20-25% EBITDA, but if the capex which has gone in is in crores, then that 20-25% EBITDA at that 15-20 lakhs per month sale will still take 5-6 years to recover. The recovery period in payback has to be maximum 3 years. If it's 3 years on paper, in reality, it might be 4 years. So when we look at somebody, we look at if the capex is 50 lakhs and if they are making 2 lakhs of profit per month, then it can still get recovered in 2 to 3 years, and it makes sense. But if that for the same 2 lakhs of profit per month, the capex goes to 1.5 crores, then suddenly the equation is of payback is not good. So payback calculations are very important. You always have to look at how much is the setup cost for your restaurant versus how much EBITDA it is making, because that payback any investor will see, right? The next is leadership potential in the mission. What is the right to win for that particular brand? You might be running a great South Indian restaurant, but why should a customer come to your restaurant to have food? What is unique about your dosa or your idli or the chutney? What is that unique differentiation that you provide, which gives you the potential to become a leader in this space? Like you would have heard of Rameshwaram Cafe in Bangalore, right? A simple insight that they've really doubled down on is that if you add a lot of, obviously you have to maintain quality, but adding a dollop of ghee on every product brings out a great aroma which nobody else in the market is giving. And that is one thing on which they have capitalized on and have become leaders in this space. Similarly, anybody else, it could be cost, it could be quality, it could be a particular aroma, it could be a particular flavor, but you have to identify what is your right to win in the space that you are operating in. The next is the capability to plug and play in the Rebel operating system. So we have 350 kitchens and we invite brands to come into our kitchen and expand through our network. So this is a point specific to Rebel, but the synergies that we provide are a supply chain, space, aggregator relationships with Swiggy, Zomato and others. And this is something which if it fits well, leads to a higher chance of an investment through Rebel. And then the other is the founder's vision. What does the founder want to create? Does the founder want to be both in the high-end space, in the premium space, as well as the the entry-level space? Is there clarity on thought that how much is the competition in each of these spaces? And that becomes very important for us to evaluate. So these are all the things, and there are quite a few things, and that's why an investment requires about 4 to 6 months of evaluation before we decide whether to go ahead or not. But if you're looking to set up a business and get investment, these are some of the things that you might want to consider. So what should you do? What is the key takeaway from this? How should you go about deciding on expansion and investment? The first thing you should do is decide on which model to expand. If you have an offline setup, do you want to continue opening more offline restaurants in which delivery will be there, or do you think that your setup can actually be a mixture of offline and cloud kitchens? So it could be few good offline locations in Delhi NCR, for example, but coverage across Delhi NCR by being present in cloud in the remaining locations, because opening an offline store is going to be expensive. So you decide what is the right model for your brand. Accordingly, you decide the investment mode, whether through internal accrual or debt or equity or franchising. How do you want to go about it based on the framework that I discussed? Accordingly, if you want to raise money through equity, you have to approach bankers, and there are a lot of investment boutique investment banks which are out there, or franchising partners, events like these through which you can look at raising money. But you have to be focused on your business. You need to have, first of all, a telescopic view, which means you need to have a 5-year plan on how your expansion is going to happen. But at the same time, you need to have a microscopic view on your business. So in one eye, you have to have a telescope, in the other eye, you need to have a microscope, because the finer details of the business cannot be compromised on. A lot of times we see founders looking after expansion, looking after signing a lot of franchisee or raising investment, and that's where the business goes for a toss. You cannot compromise on taste, quality, experience, value. All of these things are the things that will never change for the customer, Indian customer or a global customer. For them, taste, the quality, the value are always going to be important. So you have to stay focused on this while you look at your expansion plan. So this is all from my side. All the best for your expansion journey. My email address is here in case you wish to connect regarding any further thoughts on this area. Thank you so much.